Today we are clearing Murder Row, covering the important trash mechanics, boss abilities, interrupts, dispels, and positioning you need to survive the dungeon.
You will even work a restaurant shift halfway through the run. Apparently defeating demons was not enough employment for one day.
At the start, your first objective is to interrogate 4 Snitches. Their locations appear on your map and mini-map. While moving through the area, stop the mage casts as much as possible. The bribe captain has a dangerous tank buster, so tanks should watch this closely, especially when pulling several groups together. The group can also receive bleeds here. Healers, keep an eye on them, and if your class can remove bleeds, help your healer. The seductive Syad cast is one of your interrupt priorities. Stop it whenever possible. Finally, watch the massive Fellworm. It deals heavy group damage and applies a DOT that should be dispelled quickly. Once the 4 Snitches are interrogated, move toward the first boss. For Kystia Manaheart, your first priority is her pet, Nibbles. Stay fairly close to the boss. This makes several mechanics easier to dodge and keeps the group positioned together. Nibbles casts Fell Spray, a spinning frontal attack. Move out of its path.
Kystia will then cast Fell Nova, move outside the circle, and prepare for several copies of the boss to appear and begin casting. Every copy should be interrupted.
Once the casts are stopped, return to Nibbles and continue burning the pet. When Nibbles dies, Kystia becomes destabilized and takes increased damage. This is your damage window. Use Bloodlust or Heroism here, pop offensive cooldowns, and healers should be ready because the boss also deals heavy area damage during this phase. Eventually, Kystia summons Nibbles again. Return to the pet, repeat the mechanics, then burn the boss during each destabilized window until she goes down. Next, we enter the most dangerous encounter in Azeroth, customer service. Talk to the NPC to begin the restaurant event.
Depending on your role, customers will request different actions. You may need to bring drinks, serve food, clean spots from the floor, dance for customers, or kick troublesome clients out. The request appears above each customer's head, while cleaning locations appear directly on the floor. Follow the requests and complete the event. And yes, kicking customers out is absolutely the best mechanic in the dungeon. Once the restaurant shift is finished, move on to the next boss.
Zaen Bladesorrow starts with Killing Spree, an area attack dealing moderate group damage. Minor defensives and normal healing cooldowns should be enough to handle it. Envenom is the tank buster. Tanks should use a defensive to reduce the hit. Players targeted by a red arrow and circle need to move toward a fell barrel and use the mechanic to destroy it. Do not destroy the normal barrels. At 100%, Zaen casts Murder in a row. When this happens, the entire group needs to hide behind the remaining normal barrels to avoid the attack. Keep dodging the puddles, destroy fell barrels with the targeted mechanic, protect the normal barrels, and hide behind them whenever Murder in a row is cast. Repeat until the boss is dead. On the next path, keep stopping dangerous casts and focus the Shivan Punisher. This enemy deals heavy damage and should be one of your main kill priorities. Also, watch the Corrupted Warlock. Healers should be prepared to dispel curses throughout this section. If your group encounters Fellmaster Luxe, watch for the frontal attack. Healers should also prepare for heavy group damage when Luxe uses Blade Dance. Once the path is clear, move into Xathuux the Annihilator. For Xathuux, positioning is one of the most important parts of the fight. The tank should gradually kite the boss around the circular arena. Legion Strike is the tank buster. Use a defensive and point the attack away from the group. It also applies a healing reduction for a few seconds, so healers should be ready. Axe Toss targets a player with a red arrow. Move close to the boss or toward the center so the group can destroy the axe quickly. Infernal Crush targets players with green arrows and circles. Spread away from each other and use a minor defensive if needed. Later, Xathuux uses Demonic Rage. This damages the entire group and increases the boss's damage. Immediately afterward comes Burning Steps, which drops a growing pool on the floor. This is where tank positioning becomes important. Keep moving the boss around the edges of the arena and control where Burning Steps pools are dropped so the group keeps enough space to fight. Continue using defensives for Legion Strike. Kill Axe Toss quickly, spread for Infernal Crush, and manage the growing pools until Xathuux is defeated. On the final path, tanks need to respect the Defiled Golem. It hits hard, while healers should prepare for incoming group damage. The imps should have their casts stopped, stun them together and cleave them down quickly. Keep dodging the puddles. If Felbeam gives you a green arrow, keep moving and use the available space to place the mechanic safely. Do not stand still and do not drag it through your group. For kill priority, focus the Shivan Punisher first, then the Corrupted Warlock, and cleave the remaining enemies. And yes, one last reminder.
Green puddles remain hostile. Azeroth has not changed its policy.
Lithiel Cinderfury is the final boss, and Chaos Bolt should be interrupted whenever possible. The boss summons a Vile Fiend that deals heavy damage to the tank. Kill the Vile Fiend as quickly as possible. A massive Infernal will also target the tank. Do not waste damage trying to kill it. The tank should kite the Infernal and keep it away from the group. Fingers of Gul'dan targets players with green arrows and circles. Use a defensive and drop these near the tank so the adds spawn in a controlled location. You want the circles overlapped closely enough for the imps to group together, but do not stack directly on top of each other or the group can die. Once the mechanic lands, several imps spawn. Stun them and cleave them down immediately. Meanwhile, Lithiel casts Demonic Gateway and moves to the opposite side before casting Malefic Wave. Finish controlling the imps, then use the gateway to move across the room and dodge the wave. The tank should keep the Infernal away from the imps and away from the gateway. This is important because if Malefic Wave hits the imps, they become empowered by 100%. You definitely do not want that. Tank the boss toward an edge of the room whenever possible. This gives the group more space and more time when Lithiel creates another gateway. The closer the two gateways are to each other, the less time you have to handle the imps and dodge Malefic Wave. During this phase, one ranged DPS should keep watching Lithiel and interrupt Chaos Bolt. If the cast cannot be stopped, prepare a strong defensive. Keep the imps grouped near the tank for efficient cleave, but remember, overlap the circles without directly stacking them. Control the adds. Use the gateway, dodge Malefic Wave, interrupt Chaos Bolt, and repeat until Lithiel Cinderfury is dead. Leave a like if this guide helped you and check out our Midnight Season 2 guides.